I hope that you've seen this response that Facebook has to Apple's moves to limit targeted advertising on its platform. Facebook, which is itself the target of antitrust complaints, saying that Apple is in antitrust hot water here. What do you make of it?
Well, I think Facebook has been motivated in part by the new proposed rules in the EC, and it believes that those rules are targeted largely at open platforms like Facebook, Google, and perhaps Amazon, and it wants to take Apple down with it, or at least feel it's subject to similar rules. So I think a lot of that is posturing really over what's going on in the European Commission.
And they seem to be making the argument that it's sort of targeted advertising versus Apple's platform power of being able to take a share of transactions. That strikes me as possibly a bit of a straw man. Aren't there ways to have a business model without having targeted advertising? Maybe that's not the question for you, but does the antitrust issue have to be an either or in the way that they're framing it?
Well, I don't think the targeted advertising problem that Facebook faces right now in Europe is principally an antitrust issue. There are two new proposed laws in Europe. One is a Digital Services Act, which deals with controlling illegal content and counterfeit or illegal merchandise sold online. The targeted advertising business model it comes up more on the competition side than on the illegal content side. And there, I don't think any of the new laws are directly aimed at targeted advertising as such.
Doug, I want to ask you broadly about those latest draft rules out of the EU. Some of the most aggressive since the GDPR, fines of up to 10% of annual revenue, plus potentially orders for breakups. Can we look at those as a blueprint for what we might see here in America, particularly since we have seen echoes of what's been done over there in the U.S. so far?
Well, it's possible. I think the sort of populist sentiment that doesn't like big, powerful companies in general, and in particular doesn't like the powerful technology platforms, that certainly had more traction in Europe so far than in the United States, and is motivated in part, I think, these two new proposed laws. In the United States, there clearly is a bipartisan support to some extent for laws that would rein in the technology platforms. We saw that, I think, most vividly in the reports of the House Antitrust Subcommittee about a month ago. But it's not at all clear that there's a political will in the Senate or even in the Biden administration for the kinds of changes that are and regulations that have now being proposed in Europe. That remains to be seen.
That's a good point, Doug. We talk about that a lot. What is the timeline here? And it certainly feels like investors in these companies don't see regulation as a real threat anytime soon. Would you say that's the case then, that we're unlikely to see, business altering regulations in the next, let's say, 1 to 2 years? Is it going to be longer than that?
Well, I think there are clearly going to be some changes in the rules. I mean, the two pending lawsuits, the Justice Department case against Google and the FTC case against Facebook, will to some extent, particularly the latter if the FTC succeeds, will change the sense of what the rules are going forward for the platforms, even without changing the legislation. And there might be changed legislation. But I would be surprised if anything in the near future here or even in Europe fundamentally threatens the business models of the major technology platforms. I think over the long run, they could make a difference.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.